if you're not scared of anything, then you are, by definition, you are not brave. Bravery is defined as taking courageous action despite fear.
You're listening to the No Labels, No Limits podcast with best-selling author Sarah Box. We focus on the mantra, no labels, no limits, no excuses. And now without further ado, please welcome your commanding coach with plenty of chutzpah and heart, Sarah Box.
Welcome, No Labels, No Limits podcast listeners. You know, this is a podcast dedicated to breaking through boundaries and achieving personal and professional growth. And today we are joined by Jill Schulman, a former United States Marine Corps officer and a leadership expert who specializes in bravery and self-leadership. I'm so interested in learning from her. Jill's journey from military to corporate and academic leadership has equipped her with a unique set of insights on overcoming fear and embracing challenges. So hang in there. We're going to explore how bravery can transform our lives and lead us to greatness. So with that short introduction, let me formally welcome you, Jill, to the podcast.
Well, thanks for having me. Now I see the perfect fit. I mean, breaking barriers. I mean, bravery is needed to break barriers. So I'm so excited to be here and share what I have discovered about bravery.
All right, because as I mentioned to Jill before we started recording, I was in a large group discussion the other day. It feels like a long time ago. But bravery came up, and there were so many different kind of conceptions of it, like what one person understood it to be, someone else. And I wisely thought, well, I don't know enough to weigh in here, so I'm going to wait. And then here we are with you, Jill.
Yeah.
So let me start with some background here. Can you share a specific experience during your time with the Marine Corps that actually highlighted the importance of bravery in leadership?
Sure. I mean, one story, I think when I first decided to begin my journey of becoming United States Marine, I flew out to San Diego. I was living in Minnesota. So I grew up in Minnesota. I definitely wanted to, I wanted to do something that had meaning. I wanted to get out of Minnesota. I just wanted an adventure. So I thought the Marine Corps was my ticket. And so I had a full scholarship on the Marine Corps. And I ended up going to the University of San Diego. So I was on a plane, go out to San Diego to start my journey to becoming a Marine. And I got to tell you, like when I first arrived, I was in for a rude awakening. I thought I was prepared. I had to have like the leadership. I had to have the physical. I had to have leadership, physical. What am I missing here? And the grades, the academics. So I had all those things and I earned this full ride. And I was like, I got this. When I got there, I realized it was so much scarier and harder than I ever thought. In fact, I showed up in hot pink silk shorts and like little pink pumps and pink nails, trying to be very like professional. I mean, imagine a scene from Legally Blonde and then imagine of any movie you've seen with the Marine Corps and you get the picture. It was not a wonderful like first day. In fact, someone told me like, you'll never make it. And so, I think of that story because I had to make a choice at that time. I could have decided to go back to Minnesota and go to college. Like I didn't need to do this, right? So bravery is a choice of taking steps and taking action in the presence of fear. Was I scared? Like, I mean, it was all male Marines around me. There was one other woman that was there. And then she quit in the first year. So then it was really kind of only me for a while. But I had to make that decision and I decided to move forward and to, keep going on the journey. And I'll tell you the journey from me being proud of who I was as a Marine, it took 3 years, right? So it's kind of like what Angela Duckworth, how she defines grit, the long-term passion and perseverance toward, a long-term goal. It isn't necessarily like easy. There's times it's great. There's times that it's not great. I got a lot of stories of the ups and downs, but what it meant for me is it's not about just achieving the goal. This is where I get really kind of excited about this topic and the impact it has on your well-being it's who you become on the journey. I mean, imagine if I would have said on that first day or in the first month that I quit. I'm not going to do it. And I would have gone back home. Like, what would my life journey have been from there? I don't know. Cause like everything, but the fact that I decided to stay, right? So it's who you become on the journey, and it's making the decision to, go down the hard path towards something you really want. So that was my story. It's not like I was just like this tough person. I went in and I just kicked butt and was a great Marine from the beginning. No, I was pitiful. I could not keep up in runs. I couldn't do a pull up. I couldn't like climb a rope. But after 3 years of training, I did end up being the top Marine in my unit and finish higher than the male. So I was very, very proud of that accomplishment. And the reason why it brought me so much joy is because it was really hard, right? So yeah, that's a story that comes to mind to kind of link me to bravery.
Well, I think about, you asked about, it's what you become through going through it, right? But also in that moment when you were in your cute little pink outfit, had you decided to go back, it would have told you a different story about yourself, about when things get tough, I go home.
Yeah.
And that's a powerful story that then ripples out. Even if that might have been the best decision for you, it would have still been a decision. But I mean, I can imagine feeling like so out of your element and going, I'm doing it.
Yeah. Well, and I don't know about you, but when someone tells you can't do it, what is it? What do you think inside?
You're not the boss of me.
It just kind of fires me up. So, but that's the one thing too, is like when sometimes maybe you have a negative comment, like how do we let that affect us? Right. In that moment, I'm actually at this point so happy he said that to me, because in moments that I wanted to quit, I was like, I am going to show that man, right? It actually, I think, got me through some of the tough times, so like sometimes we can use those hard moments, that adversity. So that comment, I could have believed it and gone home. Right. But no, for some reason, if you tell me I can't do it, oh, just watch out. I'm going to prove you wrong.
So then, how long were you in the service? Let me
5 years. 5 years. I had to do a minimum of 4 active duty. To basically, it's part of my scholarship. Like, they teach you 4 years and you got to do 4 years. So I stayed a little bit longer, 5 years. But then I decided to get out and then transition to the corporate world.
And what were you studying for your school?
Has nothing to do with, if you go through the ROTC, or for me, it was Naval ROTC Marine option, you can get your degree in anything. So I got my degree in communications and then an enhanced minor in business, thinking that I wanted to become a TV broadcaster or a public affairs officer in the Marine Corps. That did not happen because probably more than you even want to know about the Marine Corps. But when you get commissioned as an officer in the Marine Corps, you go to this thing called the basic school. And it's 6 months of training on how to learn how to lead an infantry platoon in battle. Because you believe, you are a Marine rifleman first. So if you're an officer, like even if you're a lawyer or you're a pilot, you got to learn how to lead an infantry platoon. So during that 6 months of that training, you get a rating from number 1 to number 300, like number 1 lieutenant all the way down to number 300 lieutenant. You are stacked ranked. And then the job you get is based on your ranking. So I was so proud. I was like number 7 for a long time out of 300. And then I failed a course and was dropped to 17. But the one public affairs officer slot was taken by the guy that was like number 3. I wouldn't have gotten it anyway. So now that I couldn't be a public affairs officer, I'm like, well, what do I choose? So they had just opened up an MOS, military occupational specialty, of combat engineering for women. And combat engineering is you blow things up and you build things and you blow things up. It's like mines, it's demolitions. And I'm like, what the heck? I'm in. So that was my specialty. It has nothing to do with my degree at all. Communications business to combat engineering. Yeah, but it's okay. I just need a degree.
But oftentimes what our degrees are in have nothing to do with what we end up doing. Like they serve as a great foundation.
Uh-huh.
I'm still seeing you blowing stuff up in pink. I'm stuck a picture in my head of here you are.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so funny.
So, but then you got out and you've done research and you've done all this work on bravery. Mm-hmm. So take me and take all of us listeners on this, on how your studies and the work with other researchers actually influence your approach to leadership and resilience.
Yeah. Worked in corporate America for 15 years. I've had my own leadership development business for 10 years. And then I decided to go back and study, really get into the science of positive psychology. And then that led to bravery. So the study of positive psychology is the study of happiness and well-being, right? And I was very interested in how does that impact our bottom line in organizations? How does that impact, our just our well-being in general. So I went back and studied that, and then I took a deep dive, and I was just really curious as I did my research, like what are the things that elevate our happiness and well-being, but also elevate our success, right? At work and outside of work and achieving our goals. And that's really what took me to this area of bravery. It's like that was the one thing, right? Like if someone wasn't, and we should define bravery here. Bravery,
yeah, let's do that.
Yeah, bravery is defined, and I'll cite Marty Seligman and Chris Peterson as they defined it as they developed the VIA strengths. They define bravery as being brave is not being fearless. And that's one of the misnomers. Like, I'm brave. I'm not scared of anything. If you're not scared of anything, then you are, by definition, you are not brave. Bravery is defined as taking courageous action despite fear. So even though you're scared, you move forward. That is what bravery is. And it's towards something that is really intrinsically motivated, something that really matters to you or aligned with your goals. So it could be something as simple as sticking up for someone at work that has an idea and people are shutting that person down. It could be, raising your hand to share an idea in a meeting. It could be putting your name in for a promotional opportunity that you've always wanted, or it could be, jumping into the waves in the ocean to go and save someone because they're not doing well. I mean, it's like bravery's got a big span of it, but usually all the press everyone, when people think about bravery, they think of someone just running into a burning building, or like what I did as United States Marine. And I'd say, veterans and first responders, yes, they're brave and we honor their courage and everything they do is brave, but we all have opportunities to be brave. Like what kind of scares you a little? And then you have that little choice. Do I stay safe and just not do anything? Or do I step into the discomfort? So that is bravery.
What happens to us though when we step into the discomfort? There's opportunity there, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's really where the magic happens. So that's the first thing I try to teach people when I speak to audiences on bravery is helping them understand that getting out of the comfort zone. So doing something that is scary, that makes us uncomfortable. It sounds counterintuitive because you're like, that is going to like be uncomfortable and that's going to lead to unhappiness. It's actually the opposite. So stepping out of our comfort zone and doing something that's hard or challenging that we really want, that just unlocks many things. It increases our self-confidence, our self-efficacy. It gives us a sense of agency that we can control our life. So anytime we step into discomfort, it helps us learn, grow, increase our confidence, our pride, life satisfaction, all kinds of things happen.
I'm thinking within organizations. Well, describe to me who you work with when you're working in this, like in organizations. You work with groups, teams, individuals. How do you work with folks on this area?
Definitely in groups. I don't do any like one-on-one coaching anymore, just because I want to get the science of bravery to like the largest audiences possible. So I tend to do keynotes, but I also have programs that I take groups through and I teach them basically how to be brave. Because what we do know, and this comes from Ryan Nemec's research, and what he has found is out of all the character strengths, bravery is one of the character strengths people want more of, but they don't know how. And I think there's a lot of speakers that are just like, let me tell you my story, how brave I was, and now go out there and do it. And just, what did you say about the other gentleman? Just shoulder through it, or like, just go do it.
Put your shoulder to the grindstone and shoulder through muscle through.
Yeah. So just do it. Or just be brave, maybe call him, you coward, just do it. But that doesn't work, and what I do is I look at the evidence. I look at the science. So if someone's on a stage and they're really motivational and telling them about their brave journey and say, just go do it, it doesn't work. It doesn't work. It gives you a little bit of confidence in the short term, but it actually doesn't end up building bravery. So what I am on a mission to do is like, what do we know about the evidence, about psychology? What can we do to become braver? And anyone can be brave. Anyone can become braver. It's like going to the gym. It's like someone saying like, well, I'm just not brave. I'm just not strong. There's nothing I can do about it. Like, actually you can get into the gym and start lifting weights. Start little. and a little bit lower. And over time, you can develop strength, and the exact same thing for bravery. And there's like three basic dimensions, of things that you can do. And when you work on these three areas of bravery, then you can build that bravery muscle.
Are
Over
they stacking, or do you do them one after the other, or do they build on each other? Kind of.
they build on each other, but I present them chronologically, just because I mean, you got to pick an order. So I do number one, brave mindset. So we talk about mindset, then we talk about action. How do you take the step? Like mindset is, do you believe that you can? And there's four different things that we do there. So it starts with how we think. Do you believe it's possible? Do you think it's impossible? That belief is where we have to start. And there's a lot of psychology in the things that we do there. But then there's brave action. Have you ever like met someone who this is the person that's always talking about their goals? They're doing vision each day. So there's some science there. And then the last dimension is brave relationships. We've got to surround ourselves with the people who are going to support our journey to accomplish that hard thing. And they're all interrelated, right? So sometimes if people just take a step towards something they fear, that increases their mindset and they feel great and more belief, right? Or if you have someone along your side that's done it before, you've got that brave relationship, they're going to give you more confidence to take that step. So they all are like symbiotic and kind of create an upward spiral. But the way I teach it is I start with mindset, then I go to brave action, then I go with brave relationships.
What's one of the stories that have happened that you're like, you stand back and go, that was so cool, that occurred?
I can just think of, I was just doing a keynote at my alma mater, UPenn. And when I was there, I was, giving my keynote on the science of bravery, kind of like the model with the three dimensions. And I really framed it for my alumni. So I mean, I went to school to get my master's in applied positive psychology, and we all go to this program at UPenn to study under the great Marty Seligman, the father of positive psychology, because we have this ambition. In fact, it's part of our application. Like, what are you going to do with this? Like, because they want people to go there that are going to actually like try to elevate well-being in the world. So everyone goes there with that ambition. But if I look at a lot of my peers, a lot of them haven't done a lot with it yet, right? So my keynote was really about like, we came here for a reason. There's greatness and you came here because you wanted to make a difference. Like, what is holding you back, right? And then you get people to acknowledge it's the uncertainty, it's the fear, but is it something they really want? And then I took them through the steps, and after that keynote, it was wonderful. I had people coming up with me with tears and saying like, I've been wanting to do this for so long, and I'm going to take that step, right? So that's what just makes it all worth it, because it just if people understand how to develop bravery and they know that it's possible, then they're going to take that first step.
Yeah, I love that you talk about it as an upward spiral. It's the same thing. Like, you get something and you understand it, you experience it, and then you're no longer. I don't mean small in a diminished way, but you're not as small as you felt the day before, right? You're thinking, oh yeah, I can do that, right?
Yeah,
and it may have only just been this much,
just
but you had it.
But you just have a little bit more like confidence. You have your shoulders are back a little bit and said, okay, that was a little step, but I took that step. I feel a little bit, a little bit more capable, like less small. Yeah, that's the way bravery works too. It builds slowly over time. It's not like I can take people through a workshop and then they went from being a coward and now they're going to be the bravest person in the world. It doesn't work that way.
That would be a great retirement plan, but I don't think it doesn't work like that.
I wish I had a magic wand, but it takes work. It takes work. But when you do, like, it's, and my why for doing this work and speaking on podcasts and stages and, trying to get this message all over. And that's what the book's about too, is it's really not about achieving the hard thing. It's about who you become. It's about what it does to you. That's what I really care about. So when I go into organizations, I will help drive results. I will impact the bottom line. I can say that with absolute confidence, which is wonderful. But what's the lasting impact that really gets me fired up is the transformation that we see in the people. And they're like, I can't believe I did that. Wow. And there's the self-confidence goes up, and then talk about upward spiral. I feel like people get momentum from there. What's now the next goal they set is going to be a little bit more challenging. So it's so fun to see.
It is fun. And it doesn't have to be so, like you talk about burning building kind of, it doesn't have to be that. It has to be something that matters to the individual, and I remember being challenged, literally challenged. I didn't want to do this. I was thinking of how creatively I could get out of it without saying I'm just not going to do it. But
Okay.
I was working a crisis line, and the person I had helped was a military. I lived on the Monterey Bay area. They're
Uh-huh.
military, so they're under the military coverage, but the incident occurred on them on public areas. So the DA is handling this case, and he says, "You're coming as a witness." I said, "No." Because I said, "I'm not going." And I said, "I can't talk in court. I jam up if someone pulls me over because I'm going fast. And he goes, "All you have to do is come. You'll be fine." And I said, "Yeah, but you're in court every day." And he goes, "You know what? I'm going to tell you, you're going to feel nervous and you're going to do great. But I tell myself as a DA that if I'm not a little bit nervous, then I don't care enough about this case to stand in front of the judge and argue it." And I thought,
Mm.
okay, okay, I'll show up, which I
Yeah.
did. I have no memory of what happened other than that nothing bad happened, right? And he handled it and she was taken care of.
Mhm.
But that one thing there, the next time something happened, it was like, okay, I'm uncomfortable, but I can show up. And he said, "You know that sick feeling in your stomach?" I said, "I do." And he said, "They're butterflies. They'll fly in formation once you show up." I went, okay, I needed a
Love it.
metaphor and
I
experience.
like that. I'm gonna have to steal that. I love that. And it makes me think of like when we feel like stress, when we feel anxiety, like we can do this little cognitive reframe, right? And which is really when we feel that, it is our body preparing ourselves to perform at our best when things really matter, right? When our chest starts beating, when we maybe start breathing a little bit more, like literally our body's going, okay, something really important is going to happen, and I need to give you the strength, the oxygen, the blood to make it happen. So this little cognitive reframe, right, can help you. When you feel like, oh my God, I'm so nervous, I'm so anxious, you could just say, okay, I'm feeling my heart, I'm feeling my breathing, I feel a little sweat in my hands. My body is preparing me to perform at my best. And if you just do that little reframe, it's amazing, right? How you feel better.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's all about, for me anyway, I find it's a lot of the times about this, my internal dialogue, like the story I'm telling myself. And,
Mm,
um, so the reframe is super helpful to be able
yeah.
to do that. But
Yeah.
you were talking about positive psychology, and
Mhm.
what the purpose of that was. It's interesting. I didn't realize that you had to say up front what you were going to do with it, because I know a lot of people have gone to UPenn for that specific thing. Like, but what
No,
is
well, it's just in the application. It's
right?
like, why, just kind of
That's
like, why are
intentional.
you coming here? And they're really looking for people like, it's a master's of applied positive psychology, right? So
Not
it's really,
theoretical.
yeah, just not theoretical, it's to apply it. Yeah. So you had to at least have your dream. And I'm sure most of us change it during the middle of the program, but yeah.
No, but I love the intentionality of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
'Cause you're
Totally.
starting off with the focus. Um, so in your view, how can leaders cultivate bravery within their teams, and especially in those high pressure situations?
Yeah. Yeah. Um, Let me just go through the three dimensions quickly because it's now my book is intended for like the team members, right? So I'm trying to develop my materials to go to the leaders, team members. And so then book number 2 is going to be how do leaders create more brave self-leaders. So as I share this, it's like leaders, we need to learn how to get brave self-leaders. And I can go over a little bit of what um, my thoughts are on that. But just in general,
And then also, then let's talk about your book and where people can get it. So let's do what
okay,
you're planning on first.
yeah. So just let me go over the three dimensions really, really quickly, because these are the tangible actions. So the things I'm telling you are these are these are tangible, like we call them interventions in academia, but it's just like these are things you can do that we know will have a positive impact. So if it's a leader, it's like then bring these ideas or these designed for organizations. So we need to have people understand that their skills are not fixed. They're able to, accomplish things, or they're able to grow and develop their skills. So if they don't believe it's possible, then we can't even get started. The second thing I teach is stress is enhancing mindset. So we kind of touched on that. Kelly McGonigal, Aaliyah Crumb's work. a health psychologist, a health psychologist, talking about your belief about stress predicts your response to it psychologically and physiologically. So stress is not going to go away. Adversity is not going to go away. So we should develop the right mindset so that we have the best reaction to it. So that's the second thing that we teach. There was actually an interesting study that was done in an organization. It was UBS, and this was a study that was led by Aaliyah Crum and colleagues. But they actually went into UBS, high stress. It's finance. They're really high stress. And what they did is it was an empirical study. So half the people got the intervention, half the people got the placebo, but half the people watched a video that said stress is enhancing. Challenges, stress make you stronger. It was like a 3-minute video talking about the positive effects of stress and challenges. And it was all scientifically based. Then there was another video that's 3 minutes that said stress is horrible. It is going to kill you. You need to eliminate it. And that was also evidence-based because there's evidence on both sides, right? So everyone thought they were watching the same video, right? And then they followed these individuals, and these were actually, I think they were managers. I got to look back closely at the study, but they found there was a statistical significance in, number one, performance of the individuals. So if you believe that stress and challenges are enhancing, you perform better. So statistical significance in performance, but they also looked at job satisfaction, much higher job satisfaction. And they also looked at health outcomes, blood pressure, blood sugar. So it's the psychological, the physical. So there's just the power of that. And if I go into every study, then we're going to be on here for 3 hours. So I probably shouldn't dive into it, but it's an interesting, like everything that I teach has always got like, the studies behind it. It's not just let's just all pretend like everything's okay. No, it's like there's science behind it. The other two things that you kind of mentioned that I teach in my program as well are the voices in our head, the chatter. So self-talk. We have people start being aware of what are the messages you're saying to yourself. And if not helping you, then stop that, right? And then we get into the real techniques. And I cite Ethan Kross's work with the book Chatter, use some of his strategies to be able to do that because we can change. Like, we don't need to just listen to the voice. We can talk to ourselves. And when we do, it can make a big difference. And then the last one is emotions. We teach people that you don't have to be a victim of your emotions. You can generate the positive emotions that best serve you, your team, if you're a leader, your customers, and your family at home too, right? And that's a misnomer. A lot of people think like, oh, I'm experiencing this emotion. I'm a victim and I'm just going to like let my whole day be bad because I just woke up in a bad mood. That is bullcrap, right? I mean, that's a choice. And if you just want to be miserable all day, but you have the power to do that. And we know that based on evidence. So we kind of teach them like how, like those four at a start. So like, and I feel like in organizations, like, and I go into organizations, I teach leadership development all the time. That's what my company's been doing for 11 years. We don't do a lot of work on the cognitive side. We just kind of go right into like, okay, here's how you can do your job better. We need to do more work on this cognitive side, this mindset side, and that is going to drive more results than saying, here's how you do your skill better, right? So that's what I would recommend. And then there's even more to it. Then there's, of course, brave actions. And we teach people how to, set goals the right way that are challenging and motivating, making sure people are getting out of their comfort zone, right? So, then we talk about implementation intentions, all the literature on that, which is if you've got a goal that you're going to accomplish within maybe 6 to 9 months. Now, what are all the rungs to the ladder to get to the top of the ladder if that's the goal? Because you can't just get to the top of the ladder. You need all the lower rungs. And so what are all those steps? What is a step you can take tomorrow? Right. So we talk about that. We talk about Gabriella Utengen's work on the best way to make sure you take action, overcome adversity that strikes is to anticipate what will go wrong. And people are like, wait a second, aren't you a positive psychology expert? You're talking about what's wrong. And that is actually one of the keys is you think about what might get in my way externally, but also internally. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And you identify those things and you do your contingency planning. So that way, when it happens, you're ready for it and you keep taking action. And then we talk about ruthless prioritization, and focus. So planning, prioritization, and focus. And that's something that we teach in organizations. Leaders, make sure you do this. Like, what are your people doing with their time? And are they aligning their time, their productivity to the most important things? And then we should always be doing the hardest things first thing in the morning. Because if we only have limited cognitive resources, right? So if we wait till the end of the day, like, we're not going to do it. So attack I mean, this is the Marine in me. I'm like, attack the hardest thing in the morning. The thing you dread doing,
Do it
attack that
first.
thing, do it first. And then you get like that dopamine hit and then you feel great, right? And then brave relationships, which is asking for help, surrounding yourself with people that have the expertise, the knowledge, have gone down the path. And then we got to be brave enough to ask for help, say we don't know, say that we're struggling. So if we can get all three of those, so imagine in an organization, if leaders do this, like let's invest in the cognitive skills, let's help them with the productivity and planning and doing the hard things first, and then develop a collaborative environment where everyone can actually be real and asking for help. Like this is why we just see like results just take off if they can build these skills.
Yeah, I think what you're doing is creating like a web of success,
Yeah.
right? Because when it's hard when you feel you're in an environment where you're supposed to be like at the top of your game all the time, you're going to be less inclined to ask for help because
Yeah,
it feels vulnerable, right?
it
But
does.
like I liked when you said this is the Marine coming out and me attack. But I've always been like a plan A, B, and a C person. I hope never to have to use B or C. But
Yeah.
just if you think about, okay, what if
Yeah.
this? Sometimes they come up because you didn't plan for them, and all of a sudden you're in a situation. You're going, okay, we gotta make a pivot here. And
Yeah.
if you're surrounded by people who are in the habit of making pivots together,
Yeah.
and you have that strength together, I think
Yeah.
that's so powerful. Have you been finding that more and more organizations are open to adding in the cognitive piece along with the aspects of this, or what's our environment like right now?
I think it's starting. There was like an article like maybe 6 months ago in ATD, Association for Talent Development, and they said like I hope whoever wrote the article like they've got their finger on the pulse. So I certainly hope so. I feel like I'm just getting started. I see it as a need, right? I mean the book's not going to be out until July, so I'm really just getting started. But I think it's something different. It's novel, and what we really need to do is take the anytime we talk about like any of these like cognitive things, like we consider them like mental health. People consider mental health, and then they go, whoa, 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 mental health, whoa, whoa, whoa. That's like medical, or that's the well-being people over there. Like we're here in business, and I'm just
You
like,
are so correct.
yeah. And so I want to kind of destigmatize it and say, if you want people to perform well, like, and part of the reason why I call it the science of bravery, and it is all around enabling bravery, is you got to do the mindset stuff if you want people to be brave, set ambitious goals, and achieve more at work. And hopefully under the frame, under the shield of bravery, people are going to want to do it. But I sneak in a lot of that, the self-talk and optimism and positive emotions, because it's not like once you achieve the goal, don't wait until you achieve the goal to experience happiness, because that is not the way the science of happiness works, right? It's finding the positive emotions, the happiness along the journey that is the fuel to success. So, I mean, I definitely get, I get to maybe sneak in a lot of the things that they would normally have to get through their well-being benefits, but it's about driving business, right? And you are a badass. You are tough if you learn these skills and you apply them.
Yeah, and sometimes you need a leg up. You need someone to say, hey, I see you just walked into that brick wall. Let's look at it and see if it's really in front of you or what might be coming up, and because I've learned the most from my vulnerable leaders, and I had a guy when I was in my maybe 24, 25, 26. I didn't realize what he was doing till I'd worked for him for a couple of years, but he'd always hang me out. Like he'd say, okay, you're going to do this. And I'm going, I don't know how to do it. He always had me covered. I just didn't know it.
Uh-huh.
He said, no, you need to do this. I'm going, I don't know how to do it. So there was a strike, and everybody's off. All the union guys are off. He goes, I need you to drive a forklift. I'm going, I don't know how to drive a forklift. He goes, well,
Yeah.
all of these people are expecting groceries, so we need to do this. And he says, I've learned it's super easy. So I do it, and they're like, it's not that hard. I'm not that skilled. But his boss comes a couple of weeks later to do a divisional thing. And he said, yeah, I see you on a forklift. And I said, yeah, he told me he used to have to do this in Phoenix when you guys worked together. And he looked at my boss and he looked at me and he goes, tell her the truth. And my boss goes, I never had to do it. I just needed you to believe in me so you would do it. And I thought, okay, what a trick. But he set me up all that way through management types of stuff too.
Yeah.
But he believed in me enough to cover for me. And I thought
Yeah.
it was such a great stretch because
Yeah.
I would have never done it.
Well, and let's like apply this. Like, so as leaders, we need to push and challenge our people, right? So that's the brave actions, that challenging goals for them. But then you need to believe in them. So brave mindset is believing that it's possible, they can achieve it. So from a leader perspective, one of the biggest predictors of our people having a growth mindset is your mindset. So do you believe that the person that you're leading, maybe they're not good at something now, but do you believe that they can develop the skill and become great at it? Because if you genuinely believe it all the way down to your tippy toes, they're going to know that. Or do you think like, oh, this person is a loser and they're never going to be able to do it? Because you can say all the right words, but they can tell when you, so you've got to have a growth mindset and believe they can do it, right? So it's the belief. And then, you mentioned that your best leader was also like vulnerable. So if we look at Amy Edmondson's work on psychological safety, she shares like, to create psychological safety, and it's so important, like, leaders have to model like being vulnerable, sharing mistakes, asking questions, admitting when they don't know. Because when a leader does that, then everyone feels safe and go, oh, now it's okay. Like if I don't know how to do something, I can admit it and I'm not going to be like humiliated or punished because my leader's doing it. So yeah, it's up to the leaders to really create that environment, So when I work with leaders in organizations, we talk about psychological safety and then we give them like, what are the 3 specific things that you need to do consistently to create that psychological safety? So it's kind of a two-way street. Leaders got to make it safe, but then our team members, sometimes they always have a little bit of fear. They need to learn to step into their fear and share their idea or their concern, even when it's a little bit scary. But when you do both.
Yeah. It's not just bottom up or top down. You have to meet in that synergistic space.
Yeah.
So your book's not going to be out till July. Heck.
I know. It's,
what's the title? Where will we be able to get it? And just outline a little bit of it for us.
Yeah. So, the title will have the science of bravery in it somewhere. When you go through the book publishing process, there's a lot that goes into it. So they're going to do research on the best titles at whatever. So we don't know yet, but the science of bravery will be in it. Be coming out in July. If anyone is interested, you want to learn more, it's written as a parable. Like, I love business parables. Like I love Ken Blanchard, Spencer Johnson's, like the 1 Minute Manager. I love Who Moved My Cheese. I love The Energy Bus or The Power of Positive Teams by John Gordon. I think those parables are some of the best books. So I decided, like, I wrote my book as a parable so that it's entertaining. Because when you pick up a parable, you read the whole thing, right? I mean, you can't pick up.
You do. And you read them more than once.
Yeah. So I wrote as a parable because I will write another more the academic side of the science of bravery next. But when I pick up those books, I tend to not read the whole thing. I'll pick it up and I'll get it started and then I'll kind of peruse around to what I like, but I sometimes don't read it cover to cover, So I guess I'm motivated. Like I want it only takes 2 hours to read the entire book. It's written as a parable. It's got all the evidence in it. So I'm excited. And if people go to my website, so it's my first name, last name, JillSchulman.com, and then sign up for my newsletter. I'll let you know when it's coming out. And then also just, an important thing is always just surround yourself with the people that are going to be encouraging you to do the brave things, and part of that is even your social media. So, when it comes to social media, like a lot of people say, oh, social media is bad. Well, unless you use it for good. So I always tell people, like, follow the people that are going to help you, be your best personally and professionally. So, follow Sarah because she's got this constant stream of great things to help you be more successful. Follow me if this resonates with you, because I'm going to kick your ass 5 days a week. I give out content.
You've already been a Marine. You're not scared.
I've already been a Marine. So I do it playfully though. I'll give them like a little, so I'll give you this little stream, but it just keeps, some of my followers say it keeps them on track. I give them a little pep talk each day. So like I make that commitment to try to put things out on everything, just these little things, and they're entertaining and they've always got the evidence, but it just kind of keeps people like, motivated to keep going.
I love it. I think that's great. I'm going to actually have to get on your newsletter so I can get the book. I do. I keep my parable books. I do. The Go-Giver, all kinds of the ones you
Go-Giver. That's a great one too.
Like the series are so great.
Mm-hmm.
And they always have those nuggets of wisdom in it, right? Because stories stick.
Exactly. And I really want this to stick because it's really not about selling books. Like, don't tell the publisher, but I don't really care about making money in the books. What I care about is I want people to realize that they can be brave, right? And I want them to understand that so they can apply it to their life. So, I mean, I want to get my message out to the widest audience. How do you do that, right? Thank you for having me on and telling people about the book, because I hope it's one of those books that people read and then they pass it along.
Oh, I hope so too. And thank you for writing it. And because everything has a ripple effect. So you being brave helps the next person, and you may never know who you've helped, but it will change lives. So I'm so excited for you. We'll put your contact information in our show notes. So if you're listening to this, don't worry about it. We've got you covered there. Jill, I'm going to ask you for the last word as we go off this podcast. Sign us out. What do you want? What are your parting words of wisdom?
You know what? I'm just going to end with the Marine Corps motto. And it's something that we have many times on T-shirts. Sometimes it's tattooed on our bodies. And it's one of those things that kind of, it fires me up. But it reminds us to get out of the comfort zone. So in the Marine Corps, our motto, not our motto, but the little saying we say is, pain is weakness leaving the body. So anytime you feel a little bit of discomfort, like, at work because you're being challenged, just know that it's weakness leaving the body or it's making you stronger. So I want you to enjoy, like, when you're a little bit uncomfortable and you're experiencing that discomfort, just know it's not breaking you. It's actually building you and making you stronger.
All right. No Labels, No Limits podcast listeners. There you have it. You heard it from Jill. I hope you enjoyed this episode as much as I have, and we'll be back next week. If you like this episode, please share it with a friend, number one, so that we can get Jill's message out as far as possible. Also, we'd love to have a rating and review. So thank you, and we'll see you all next week.
You've been listening to the No Labels, No Limits podcast with best-selling author, change agent, and strategic business coach, Sarah Box. You can grab the show notes and find out how to work with Sarah at sarahbox.com/No Labels, No Limits podcast. We'd love this podcast to reach as many people as possible. Please remember to rate, leave a 5-star review, and share the podcast with someone you think would get value from this conversation. Till next time, keep taking those daily action steps to align your purpose to your principles and achieve your goals in business and life.